Hi everybody, welcome back to the PTC podcast. Again, I'm here today with Nathan Jack. Welcome Nathan.
Hello.
Thanks for making the journey. Nathan does some of our classes up in Damac too. And we were chatting last week, just over a coffee, talking about boxing. Mm-hmm. And you said you're into sparring, but you're not into getting hit in the head. And I said, why not? You said you have a medical condition. And then I just sat back and listened for about 45 minutes as you told me your story. And I was like, mate, we have to do a podcast on that if you're comfortable talking about it. So do you want to just say, let's go with, you like boxing, but you don't like getting punched in the head.
Yeah. Why? I like the training element of it and the mental side of it. It's very like, I've always been to sport anyway. It's very like listening to what your mind says and following like
bring that mic a little
good dedication towards like a craft. And I respect the craft because it's probably one of the hardest sports to conquer. I think a lot of people will watch boxing on TV and think I could do that, or Anthony Joshua's rubbish, he didn't do this. And I'm thinking to myself, most people couldn't even move around a ring for 3 minutes without getting hit or throwing a punch, let alone the other elements of it. So yeah, that's what my whole thing is. And
you don't like getting hit in the head?
No.
Why is that?
I've wanted to do white collar stuff.
Oh yeah?
Honestly.
Pat's doing it.
Is he?
He's early stages of thinking about it, yeah.
Really?
So watch this space, podcast people, yeah.
Okay, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I've always wanted to do it, but like I said, my health condition, so it's kind of like I haven't really got a choice. Don't want to upset the apple cart in terms
fair
of my
play.
body.
So then last time I asked you, I simply said, what is your medical condition?
Yeah.
So you want to just share with people? I don't know, like you said, where do you start?
Where do you start? So my earliest memory was, I think I was about 13. At the time I was playing academy football for Southampton. And I just remember having these, what I thought was like a headache, or like, I guess at that age you don't really know what it is, what a headache is, right? So it's more of like a seizure type thing, but it was just this crazy pain in my head. And I had them previously to that, but not to that extent. And then fast forward, like, it got to a point where I was having them so frequently and so often that my mum was like going backwards and forwards to doctors. They want to give you medication. They thought I was like a bit loopy, I think, at the stage. And my mum was like, no, I know my child, like he's not himself. And then backwards and forwards to hospital, different tests, different medication. But then hindsight now, you think, how can they give you medication if they don't want to know what the thing is in the first place, right? So long story short, my mum and dad were like, you need to give him a scan. And they was like, scans are expensive. He doesn't need a scan, blah, 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 what's that? So my parents said they would pay for it. So fast forward again, I ended up having the scan. And I remember so like clearly, I was sat outside. I was in hospital and sat outside of this room where my mum had gone to see this consultant. My mum was like, I'll be out in 5 minutes. So then when she's come out, she's just like, she's been crying. And I'm like, okay, that you went in like fine, what's the whole crying thing? And then she came out and said, come into the room. And she like took my hand. And then I just remember seeing like on this screen, there's like you see like when you go and get your eyes tested, there's like the screen where it lights up it was like a scan image. And I could just see like my head, brain, and then there's like this big black mark. And I was like, what's that? And then my mum was sort of like started crying again. And the doctor was like, or the consultant guy was like, well, pretty much long story short, he didn't say it in this words, but it's a tumour. And like being like that young, you don't know what that kind of thing is, right?
What are you, 14?
Yeah, like 13 or 14. And it's like, right. So then from there, my mum kind of explained to me what it was, that everything's going to be all right. And I remember having to go to John Radcliffe Hospital. Like literally it took me like in an ambulance. Went to John Radcliffe, saw like one of the top surgeons there. And he kind of explained, like, okay, like, obviously I was a child, right? So he was trying to probably be like, more sympathetic to me because I'm a child rather than the way that he would speak to an adult. Let's explain him what it was and what it is, and he can have a procedure to remove it and this and that. So anyway, long story short, I ended up having it was a brain tumour. So I think I remember having loads of tests on that particular day. I was there for like 2 days, and they sent me home, and then I was going to be having surgery within the next week. So fast forward, had the surgery, but in that time the attacks had still continued. So I had the surgery, they removed it, well, the majority of it that they could remove. It wasn't cancerous, so it was like more like a cyst type, probably like the size of a golf ball.
And where is it in your head?
So the backhand side of my head here, so like this side, there's
just
like
behind
a scar.
your right ear,
yeah,
right?
behind my right ear. So I've got a scar, and my scar goes from the top of my head here down to like my neck.
Wow.
But I've got long hair, so you don't see it now. When I had short hair, you could see the scar, but now you can't because obviously it's covered up. So then the attacks continued, and they kind of didn't know what it was. And then the surgeon actually said, I think I'm going to refer you to someone. And it was a guy at Great Ormond Street Hospital, a guy called Professor Peter Goadsby. So he's like one of the top neuroscientists in the whole of Europe. I remember seeing him and having loads of tests done, being in Great Ormond Street for maybe like a week or something like that. This is why, like, maybe I've had my operation. I've been in hospital for, at this point, maybe a month or so, something like that. And when as I'm starting to get better, they've referred me to there. And then he said, I think that the thing that you've got, because he's obviously seen me have my attacks while I'm in the hospital, it was like 99% sure that you've got this thing called cluster headaches. I was like, what's a cluster headache sort of thing? He explained it. So basically where my tumour was, then it got to a certain point on size where one of the nerves that affects clusters, the tumour was on that nerve. So where it got to a certain size, that's what triggered the start of the cluster headaches. But that was my particular reason, but they can come for a number of reasons. So at that time, I was like, I'm his youngest patient at that time. So I must be 13, 14, like I said before. And it's like, I'm like, okay, so what does this mean? So then I missed loads of school because I couldn't go to school. Just couldn't play sport, couldn't play football, couldn't do anything. All the things that you like and you enjoy as a child, have basically been taken away from you, and you're like under medical supervision. So you're in hospital, you've got these electrode things on your head, and then you've got things going in your wrists and all over the place, monitoring you 24/7, like your heart rate, things on your heart. It was crazy. So got to the bottom of it, and he said, yeah, you've got cluster headaches. And then they started going through the methods or things that can help deal with your cluster headache, because at that time there's no cure, right? So it's sort of like management, pain management, that sort of thing. So at that age, I'm then on some ridiculously high. They start you off on like a low amount of a tablet. I can't remember what it's called now. Verapamil. So that's one of the main tablets that they use to treat cluster headaches within adults and within children. But at that stage, where I'm like his youngest person or child that he's dealing with, it's kind of like based on what you weigh, the dosage of stuff that they give you. But then it wasn't having any effect. So then after maybe, I can't remember the exact time scale, but a month or so of being on a certain amount, they would up it and up it and up it and up it to a point where I was on like an adult's dose. At this age, I'm like 14, right? They don't know what the repercussions of this thing is. So then fast forward, my attacks actually started to get better. Fast forward, maybe I've gone back to school now and I'm doing my GCSEs. We're due to be doing my GCSEs. But again, because I'm still having my attacks, I'm not in the classroom with like other kids. So when I'm having my GCSEs, I'm in like the matron's office, which is like the medical office. Because obviously the school knew about my condition and stuff. And basically doing my exams from there. I've been given added time to be able to do it, extra help if I needed it, because I've missed so much of school. I think you do your GCSEs at 15, nearly 16. This is from like 13, so this is fast forward in like 2.5 years where I've missed so much school. But I didn't want to my mum and I didn't want to, like, almost they wanted me to repeat the years that I've missed, but then you're with kids that aren't necessarily your age. That's, as a child, you don't want to be with, like, the oldest one, being with kids that are 2-3 years younger than you. So I've done all that stuff. And then the tablets kind of like got to a level where the tablets were actually started to manage my attacks a lot more. Like, they were a lot my attacks, because at that age I was probably having maybe two or three a day, but they would predominantly come in like the evenings.
So what happens
early
in an
hours
attack?
in the morning? So an attack it's like when you say cluster headache, people would be like, headache? Or what? Like, a headache is normal. The cluster headaches are more nerve orientated. So it's almost like I get a pain of a sensation on the right hand side behind my eye. So if I was to put like a pin in my eye and a pin in my ear, and at the meeting point, it's almost like I can describe it as like a hot poker, like just holding it in that position, and just like the biggest pain that I can ever imagine. And it comes in bouts, so it will come, that's why they're called clusters. So it comes in like a block, so it might solid pain, build up, and then it'll be like solid pain for like 2-3 minutes, and then it will ease off, and then it will come back 2-3 minutes, and that can last anything from like half an hour to 3 hours. And I was having like 2 or 3 of those a day. So obviously you can't do a lot, right?
Yeah,
like,
wow.
my mum doesn't want
still
to let
playing
me
football?
out of the sight. No, I wasn't doing anything at that stage.
Right.
We literally couldn't. Not at the level that I was before, but like maybe like having a kickabout with my friends, but then it was so protective. Like, even in school, like I remember PE, I used to like basketball as well. Couldn't do anything where it took a risk of hitting my head, because at that stage they still didn't really know what was what, like what the effects of stuff are going to be. So then my attacks, they got to the Rapamil, the attacks started to, like, in terms of like frequency, so instead of having 3 a day, I'd probably having like 1 a day. It would last like 35-40 minutes, which was sort of manageable, so I could have sort of like a semi-normal life again. And then off the back of that, I got to, I think it was my 17th, I was about 17, and I was like, do you know what? No, it's a lie. I was 16, because I went to do college. Went to an academy called Y Valley, which was like where you do like football coaching and that kind of thing, because it was still gave me the element of being able to do like football stuff. And then I started playing football for like a local football team, just with my friends and stuff. So it gave me a bit more of my life back, because my attacks were a lot more under control. And then I remember it got to a stage where my attacks kind of like were almost like not every day, they're becoming like every other day, or like twice a week. So it was a lot more manageable. And then it was like, there's 2 types of the headache. So you've got people that are episodic, where they'll go for a period within the year. So they might have like a solid month and a half or 2 months within the year where they will have attacks constantly. But then for the other 10 months of the year, they're clear.
Okay.
So I went from being chronic, having them every day, to like episodic, which they still don't understand the reason as to why that happens, right? But in my eyes, it was like, okay, it's allowing me to do what I need to do, so I'm just going to get on with it. And then I finished the football coaching at Y Valley, and I was just like, at this stage, like, my attacks were not frequent enough to be able to, like, me be worrying as much as I used to. So I just was like, I don't want to do a normal job, man. I want to do something where I get to, like, travel and do different things. And my mum was like, well, what do you want to do? And I remember watching something. There was a program on TV back then. I think it was on ITV, like a flying program, like about cabin crew and stuff. And I was like, I want to do that. I was like, you're not going to be able to do that. Like, you've got a medical condition. You won't pass the medical stuff. So behind their back, I actually applied for 3 airlines. And this was when I was 18 then. Applied for 3 airlines, and I got a job with one airline. And in my head, I was thinking, they've off. Like, how am I going to get through the medical? So I didn't tell them about any of my medical history.
Yeah.
And I managed to get through it, and I actually did the training course.
Yeah.
Got through it. They were called Flyjet. They were like orange tie, navy blue suit.
Right.
Bearing in this time, I'm 18. I don't look anything like I look now. Like scrawny, like quite tall, like no long hair, short hair. Then I actually did that job for 6 months.
You flew, yeah?
Yeah, I flew cabin crew, but it was like charter airlines. So they used to take a lot of work from other airlines, like Air France, if they had too much work on,
Right.
we would do like their work. So it was, but like obscure places. I've been to places like Senegal, a place called Bamako, a lot of East Africa, those kind of places, Saudi, like loads of like that side of the world, random places, nowhere glamorous.
Sure.
So then I did that for like, I was in that, and then I started to get my attacks a bit more frequently. I don't know what it was, whether it to do with air pressure. Well, that I'll come to that, but like subsequently now I know it was to do with the air pressure and changing the air pressure, because I know that affects me now. But then
Are
I
you still
didn't
on the
know.
meds all through this?
Yeah, so I'm still taking my meds.
Yeah.
And got to my 6 month mark, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like this is actually quite dangerous. You're on a plane there to look after people's
Right.
safety. I know your attacks predominantly come in the middle of the night, and you rarely fly in the middle of the night. But when you're in a hotel room 5,000 miles away and you're having your attack, you're used to having your mum around, you're used to having like,
Right.
it's kind of like a bit of a reality check. It's like, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. So 6 months of that, and I left. And then at that time I was living in Crawley, because that was where the airport was, Gatwick. So then I moved back to my mum's, and then sort of like went to see my consultant again. My dose went up in my medication, and it kind of like, where it was rising a bit, it like dumbed it back down again, to a point where it got to, I was almost like attack free. So I went like for a remission period from like maybe 19 till 24, 5,
Okay.
20, yeah, about 24, 25. And in fact, I wasn't 24, 25. So when I met my missus, I had them then. So yes, I went for a mission period, about 3 years, I think, 2 or 3 years. And it was great, because you can do normal stuff then. You can do like you can go out with your friends without fear of this, but then I'm on these meds and stuff. So fast forward to, I'm going to take a big jump now. Fast forward, I'm back playing non-league football at a decent level, earning decent money, doing like a part-time job as well to give me some extra money, so it was all good.
Who are you playing with?
A team called AFC Tottenham at the
Okay.
time. They're down in like near Southampton, so it's still a trek from my house, like an hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
But the money was good.
Where are you living?
High Wycombe.
Okay.
Place called High Wycombe, so it's
I
Buckinghamshire.
used to work for Harrow Borough.
Okay, yeah. We played against them a few times, like cup games and stuff. So I was playing for them, and then I went from there to a team called Windsor and Eton, because it was a lot closer to my house. And at that time, football-wise, I was flying. I had a lot of like league teams looking at me.
Right, nice.
But then it was at the point where I was like, okay, you get a couple of offers from like some like lower league teams, League 2 teams, but the money that they're offering you, they want you to be full-time. The money that I'm getting playing semi-pro compared to playing like in League 2 makes no sense. Why am I gonna do a job where, or go and play football to say that you're a footballer playing in League 2, but you're not earning enough money to be able to be like
Fair play, yeah.
to survive. So I was like, no, I'm gonna stick to the non-league. Stayed with Windsor and Eton. We won the league that year, and then
So non-league plus your job.
yeah,
Yeah,
non-league
yeah.
plus like a sales job.
Yeah.
But my boss was sound, because he loved football. It was just like, he was like, oh, if you need to leave early to go train and go and do it, and
Nice,
just make
yeah.
it up. So it was cool. And at this time, my attacks were kind of like under control. And then it got to a stage where I actually did my knee. So I did my ACL in my knee, and I was like, ugh, not ideal. So another thing hit me, but then my attack started to like ramp up again. So I was like, things happen, right? Like, it is what it is, sort of thing. And then I just remember thinking, you know what, this whole football thing, now I'm just going to knock it on the head. I can't be bothered with it. It's too long. Like, I've had enough medical issues. I'm just going to knock it on the head. And I'd been seeing my missus at the time, who is a Geordie. She lives in Newcastle. So I was travelling a lot from like down south. I'd finish football on a Saturday, either drive or fly to Newcastle.
Wow.
To the point where my mates were like, you must really like this guy. You're going all the way to Newcastle from... It's like, bruv, that's like a 6-hour drive, 7-hour drive.
Yeah. One way.
Yeah, so I was spending a lot of time there, and I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to move. So I moved. Got a sales job in like Newcastle area. It was pretty cool. Played like some football for like her dad. Her dad ran a Sunday team. It was enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But at this time, I kind of missed a big chunk out there. I go back to where, with my missus, when I first started seeing her, I remember the first time when we were staying together, actually had an attack. She must have thought I was bonkers. She was like, what is going on with this guy? Because I've gone in the bathroom, I've locked myself locked myself in the bathroom.
You felt it coming on?
I felt it coming on.
Yeah.
And you've seen one of the videos, right?
Yeah,
I showed you the video.
Yeah.
So I'm in the bathroom thinking, oh, you're with this girl that you like. What the, like, this is the worst timing.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm in the room, like, having one of my attacks where, like, my body's basically in a spasm, banging the floor, hitting the floor, probably for about 55 minutes.
Really?
Or so. And I remember coming out, when I have them, my face swells up, like, I'm very hot, because one of the nerves controls your body temperature, so I'm very sweaty and stuff. And kind of like, she's like, oh, is everything all right? And I'm like, yeah, it's just something that I have to deal with. But at that time, thinking back now, like, we laugh about it sometimes, I'm like, how did you not think that I was crazy? Like it's not normal to see something like that happening. But then when I started to explain it to her, so I didn't even used to tell people about it. I was like, I deal with it, like, it is what it is, as long as I can do what I need to do. It was only like close family and friends that knew, like, how bad it could be. But even me, I think, I don't think about it now, I don't realise how serious it was at that time. Like, someone's like, you deal with what you can deal with, and if you can't deal with it, you just have to do what you can do to get by. So yeah, so I've moved to Newcastle, fast forward, and her family are aware at this point of, like, my condition and whatnot, so they knew what to do if, like, I had attacks. I had, like, oxygen at home, different medications, injections and that kind of stuff, just to try to help me manage my pain level and stuff. But I was still seeing my consultant, who was in London, so I would go back and see him, like, every month and a half, or I always could email him to say I need help with this or whatnot. And then just, like, working, having my attacks at night time, getting up, going to work, battered. At the time, I got along with my boss that was there, Scottish guy, and explained to him. He's like, well, he was a bit of a joke. He's like, oh, you always seem tired, what's happened? And then I got to a stage where I told him. He's like, Jesus, like, that's crazy. He's like, if you ever need anything, let me know. Like, don't have to suffer in silence, sort of thing. I'm like, I appreciate it. So then it got to a stage where I'm going to fast forward now, a big jump, where it's like 2016, late 2016. So I'm working, doing the same sales job, and I just remember feeling like, I know I'm always worse in the colder months, right? So in the north, in the UK, a lot of time from, like, October through to maybe February, it's a lot colder, especially living in the northeast. 2016 back end, and I'm just like, I don't feel right, something don't feel right, and my attacks are starting to ramp up. And it got to a stage where I was like, whoa, I don't know what's happened. They've never ever been this bad. Like, I don't understand why they're this bad. So they're giving me, in the period of, like, a year, I've probably gone through multiple procedures, medication. Like, medication is swings and roundabouts, right? They don't know what level you should be at, whether it's going to help your initial issue. Then they always have side effects. So I started doing a lot of reading of stuff, like, of just being able to understand your body more, understand, like, what the repercussions can be of taking certain drugs, and then taking one drug and then having to take another drug to combat that drug, and then all in these things, and they're not helping your initial problem anyway. So at this stage, I'm now early 2017. I'm having, like, 7 attacks a day, all, like, 45 minutes to 3 hours.
So when you say bad, is bad like the intensity of the pain? Is the duration of it?
Intensity of the pain, the duration of it, the actual period of the cluster itself. The intensity of, like, my body temperature, like, just every possible element of it was, like, if I had to mark it out of 10, every attack, every element of it was a 10.
Right.
So I'm at a stage now where I can't even leave. I'm on all these meds. I'm scared to leave my house because I don't know when I'm going to have an attack. I can't be left on my own. I've got oxygen. My medications that I'm on aren't helping. They're giving me other problems. I've had heart problems. I've got kidney problems. I've got liver problems, all from having the same high levels of medication when I was younger, right? But at the time, you don't know that that's going to cause you an issue. And then it was like, what is this? And I was in like a super duper dark place, like a place I would never even wish on my worst enemy. And I just remember not being able to be on my own, and my mum and my dad would come. This time, me and my missus live on together. We've got our own place, and my mum and my dad, because my missus going to work, they're coming up to like stay with me. Or my missus got 2 sisters, so they would come round and stay with me while my missus at work because I'm at home. Obviously, nothing that they can do when I'm having my attack, but just because there's been scenarios where I've had an attack, my body temperatures, got too hot, and I've just blacked out.
Right.
Or like where I'm in so much pain and I've like hit the floor and I've dislocated my wrist and stuff like that. Jesus. Like crazy stuff. Yeah. So I remember having this attack, and my missus was going to work, and I just remember feeling like this is so painful. Once it's calmed down, I was like, I just need to sleep. I need to be at rest. And I had a bottle of liquid Oromorph, which is like liquid morphine. And I remember just thinking, I need to sleep. I need to be pain-free. So I literally, like half a bottle, I downed the bottle and took a load of tablets, ibuprofen, paracetamol, and codeine tablets as well. And I just remember waking up, and I was in hospital. Woke up in hospital, and like my mum, my dad, my mother-in-law and stuff were there. And this is like hours later, bearing in mind like my mum and my dad live 5 hours away.
Right, wow, yeah.
I've woken up, I'm in hospital, they were around.
And you probably took a while before you were found, eh?
Yeah, well, her sister came round and was coming to stay with me, and luckily they found, and obviously I ended up going to hospital and whatnot. But then, I just remember being like, my mum said to me and my dad saying, you can't, like at this time I'd been doing because I was almost sick of taking tablets that the hospital had given me, because it given me so many issues and problems and not helping me. I'd been like doing a lot of research and reading and stuff in the times where I was able to do it, because obviously I was quite body conscious as well, and at this time I was like 17.5 stone. Right. Normal weight is 13. So
what's that, like 110, 15 kg?
Yeah. So like now I'm like 82.
Right.
So, but it wasn't like I was just completely out of shape, like overweight, eating habits, because whenever you're having an attack, it's draining you of your energy and you're looking for something to give you your energy back. Full fat Coke, gummies, sweets, just anything in sight I would eat just to try to give me some sort of energy. So I'd put that weight on. So then that psychologically, my face, my eyes were sunken, like I was just a mess. And then I just remember I'd been doing a lot of reading about it and speaking with people in America or all around the world that have had like these have the same condition. People saying that, like forums, have people tried this or tried that? And I was over a period of time. This is where I'm reading this information and thinking, I wonder if that would work. And I'm reading about certain things, and then one of the things that kept coming up was psychedelics. So like mushrooms. Yeah, so psychedelics, and then. So it was like this particular strands of mushrooms, magic mushrooms, where they say, there's one particular guy that I was in contact with talking quite a lot, older guy, but he'd been having attacks, and he was like, this is the only thing that's ever helped me. And his profile of the medications that he tried, he's in the US, but his profile of the medications that he had was very similar to mine. Like we were going, oh yeah, I've had that, what doses you were like, we used to communicate a lot. He was almost like my go-to person, because it was like, you're the only person I've met that can relate to me, and you feel sorry for me because I've had this since such a young age. You've had it for like the last 7 years. I've had it since I was like 14 on and off. So the way he told me about the psychedelics and explained to me in simple form, he was like, this particular strand, he was like, imagine if you have a box and you split the box into 4, and you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts of your brain. So 1 and 2 part of your brain normally talk to each other. 3 and 4 will talk to each other, but 4 and 1 would never talk to each other. This psychedelic will take away all those lines. So the parts of your brain that don't normally talk with each other start communicating with each other. And I was like, that kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But in my head, I was thinking, 1, I've never done any drugs ever before. Like, 2, where would I get them from? And 3, I'm not going to go and tell my consultant, well, I'm going to have this. So if you're going to do it, there needs to be a small amount of people that know, like your close family. So I've managed to speak to someone. They've managed to get me some. And at this time, my attacks were like clockwork, almost to the point where it's like, if I was having 7 a day, it would be like, one would be at this time. You'd have like a 2-hour gap. One would be at this time. Then you'd have like an hour gap. Then the one would be, they were literally like clockwork to like within minutes of each other. And then I started taking these mushrooms. The first experience, I took like a big amount just to like almost flood my body with it. I would say a big amount. It was like 2 grams, and you take it with like honey, a spoonful of honey and some yogurt. So I put it on the spoon, put it in my mouth, minging, disgusting. Tastes like eating dirt from the ground.
Right.
But it's all ground up. So like I put it in a grinder, ground it up, and I've had that. I'm thinking, oh, this isn't even doing anything. Then about 40 minutes later, the only thing I can describe it as is like I was hearing colours.
Okay.
Seeing colours, seeing numbers, having like these like waves of like. I'm not on my own when I'm doing this, by the way. My dad's with me the first time because he wanted to make sure that I was all right. My missus was skeptical, and if you were to speak to my dad about it, he'd be like, it was crazy. Like even afterwards, he was like, you started talking about stuff from his childhood that he had with his brother. He's like, how? Like
You started talking about it?
I started talking. He's like, how? You weren't even born.
Yeah.
How do you?
Wow.
How was that possible?
Yeah.
Like,
That
and
is
even
wild, eh?
even to this day, he doesn't understand how that's possible, or how can you remember something from when you was like 2? Like anyway.
Yeah.
So that was the big bust, and then I started doing microdosing. So microdosing, like smaller doses on a regular basis. And then after I've done that, it was almost like my attacks were like non-existent. From the whole time, every time I took mushrooms, every time I took them, I never had a single attack. Bearing in mind at this time, my attacks were like clockwork.
Mm-hmm.
It went from having 7 to having none.
Wow.
But I was almost like not in a state to do anything. So you're not in pain, which was my primary objective. I didn't want to be in pain, but you can't do anything. Like I'm not going to go out and walking on my own. Not going to go. Can't drive a car. Like can't go to work.
Because you're just worried about it happening again?
Worried about it, and also it's still early days in the sense of I don't know how my body's going to react to this if I'm out and about or have a funny turn or not. All things go through your head because it's something that's foreign to you or to me. And then
Did you have any attacks in public?
yeah, I had one in particular where my dad was with me. He'd come up to be with me, and I had an appointment at the doctor's just to go and have like my bloods done. I used to have to go and get it done regularly and stuff. And we've got in his car, in his van, and we're driving to the doctor's, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes away. But my mother-in-law's is near the way. So we've driving, I was like, oh, Dad, my head's going to start. I can feel it. And he was like, oh, no, like, well, what should we do? I was like, okay, just drive to Sue's. And obviously they've got a long driveway, so just go in the driveway in the back, because he was like did like building stuff. He had like sheets and stuff. I was like, I'll just put these bits of foam down towards the back on the floor, because normally I had a key, but I didn't have my key on my thing, and it was too late to go home. So we've driven down the driving fast, driven down the road, parked outside. My dad's like got long dreadlocks like down to his bum, and that's my height, 6 foot-ish. So he's pulled into the drive, taking all the stuff out of the van, trying to do it quickly before my attack comes on. I'm just trying to control my breathing, doing breathing exercises. And because my body temperature overheats, I've literally like taken my clothes off. I'm in my boxers, taking my top off.
Outside the van?
Outside, in the back, like say like it's the driveway, like
Yeah.
the corner of the driveway.
Right.
So I'm tops off, and I'm holding on to like this foam board thing, just like having one of my attacks, obviously shouting, screaming. And my dad's just there like trying to like make sure that I don't bang my head off concrete or off a wall or something. And then about 10 minutes later, you just heard these big sirens come in. I was like, what's this? It's a police riot van.
Oh, shit.
Like turns up at the front of the house, and like what's going, like 3 like police guys come out. What's going on? Stop. My dad was like, well, calm down, like stay away.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's going on, sort of thing. They was like, well, what's happening? It was like, just I'll speak to you in a minute.
Yeah.
Then about 40 minutes later, they've seen like probably the last 25 minutes of it.
Wow.
and I've come out of it.
So
and
what's
I'm
happened for 25
sat
minutes?
leaning against the wall. They're there thinking that I'm some sort of psycho case on the from what my dad said, like on the radio and stuff.
Oh,
and
really?
Then, and then I've come round and then explained to them what's happening. But my dad used to have a bit of a hot head, so it's probably not like. He probably would have come across as hostile. Without sounding racist, he's a 6 foot black guy with dreadlocks in a predominantly white area.
Right.
I'm his son, a 6 foot black guy who's like looks a bit wild in terms of face because obviously I've been ill. They probably think, what is going on here? So someone's called the police. And anyway, so we've explained it, squashed that scenario, and then end up going to the doctors and about it, whatnot.
Because it's interesting, because I'm sure you'll get to it, but you showed me the video.
Mm-hmm.
There's a video of you in a bedroom, and it doesn't look like you, firstly. And for the first 45 seconds or a minute, you're just sort of on your hands and knees. And then the last 30 seconds, anybody watching it who doesn't know the context of the video, you look like you're an actor in a movie playing the part of somebody who's possessed by an evil spirit.
Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard that.
Shouting and making that face, and like, you know, it's hard to watch without knowing anything about it. It doesn't make something
make sense,
you're
right?
used to seeing at all. That's not in a movie. Do you know? Like, I've seen people have epileptic fits, and it's not that. It's really hard to watch. And this is where, like, when you show me that video, I was like, holy shit. You can't comprehend what that must feel like.
Well, if anyone wants to Google it, they can Google it and Google cluster headache. What is cluster headaches and what's the pain like? Women that have it have said it's worse than childbirth.
Jeez. If you Google cluster headaches, Nathan Jack, there's a Daily Mail article.
Yeah.
Is it Mail Online? One of them.
Yeah.
And then halfway down the page there's a video. Give it the full play till the end, and you'll see.
The funny thing about that clip is the way that came about. So I was like, they say I was like missing friends' weddings. I was missing like christenings because I said I had a good close group of friends, but I never told any of them. I would just be like, I can't do this. I've got a headache. And as they became more frequent, I almost went off the radar and I was missing. They start asking questions. Boys in groups, right? Usual banter.
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't been well. But no one's seen you, bruv. Like, what are you doing? You're not working. Like, what's going on? And I was in a mental state where I was like, I've got this video. Do I show them? I was like, do you know what? They're my friends, so I'm going to show them. So I've showed them the longer version of that clip. And they're like, oh my God, what on earth? And I've taken a live photo of what I'm looking like now. So their image, they haven't seen me for probably the best part of 4 months, none of them. So what they think I look like and what I look like, it looks like two completely different people. Like, what has happened? I was like, all the times where I've missed this and I've said that I can't do this, or I don't want to be out past like 9 o'clock, like over the years, this is what it is. Like, I have this condition. It's called cluster headaches. Or that's like, what? Like, why have you never like how? So then we did like a group like FaceTime, like a Zoom type call, so we could see, and I was just talking to them through it. These are like my close knit friends. They're actually guys that I met when I played for this Tottenham team. Like some of the like my good best friends to now. They was like, bro, like, how have you dealt with this and got along with your life to this point, and we've not known, like, and you've not said anything. Like, we know when, like, we've been on things, we've gone out and you've disappeared and you've gone back to the hotel because you said you've got a headache or you can feel a headache coming. Like, yeah, I get it, but like how have you, I was like, because it's something that I deal with, right? So it's like, there's nothing, if I told you, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to help me. So it's like, it is what it is. So I just dealt with it, but now it's at a point where you can know about it, but just keep it to yourself, sort of thing.
What age are you hearing this conversation?
This was like 2016, this is. But bearing in mind, 2016 is what, 8 years ago now. So you think, prior to that, I've still been having the attacks. They know them, but now they're at the point now where I'm having them the most frequent.
And what age are you about then?
I am 20, 5 years now? 6, 8 years. So now I'll be about 31.
Okay. Wow, so it took you that long to tell people, yeah?
Yeah, because I was just like my mum always used to be, you should say and tell. I was like, why? Like, we get into arguments. I'm like, why? Like, what? That might help for everyone else. My mindset was, that's not going to help me.
Right.
I have to deal with it. And I'm not a guy that seeks sympathy. So I'm not like, I don't want people, it's bad enough when you're messaging me every day saying, how are you today? Or dad, or like my uncle, or like my mother-in-law. I don't want that. Like, that makes it, for you it sounds good, but for me it makes it worse. Because the times when I'm not having them, I'm not trying to concentrate on that. I'm just trying to get myself thinking, right, my next attack's coming soon. I need to prepare myself. I don't need the extra,
Yeah.
the extra noise of such.
Yeah, yeah.
Or people fussing. So then I've showed them the video, we've had to talk about it, and I said, so what can you do? And at this time I've done more research of stuff. There's like a guy in America, that like a doctor who does like this concoction of like what is like steroids and other natural stuff in like an IV, and like that you can go and see him. There's another implant that you can get put in your head, but it all costs money, right? So I've told them, and they're like, oh well, we can get you money, sort of thing. And I've got quite a few friends that play football as well, at a high level. So they've set up like this GoFundMe page. Like they said, oh, we're gonna put like your information is gonna be out there, right? So it's like, I was like, at this stage, I was like, do you know what it is? It is what it is. Just whatever. If it's gonna help, it's gonna help. They've done me this GoFundMe page to basically raise money, because at this time I'm not working. My missus is working. We've still got bills to pay and stuff. If I want to have these different treatments, some of them cost money, like, and you're not talking like cheap amounts of money. So they've raised a large amount of money for me within like a period of a month, man. And then I ended up going to Oklahoma to actually see the doctor that I had found. When that in itself is another journey, going on a plane to Oklahoma from the northeast, Newcastle to Amsterdam to Atlanta. You get taken into a. As soon as I mentioned that I'm going to see a doctor and have a medical treatment, it was like ringing the alarm bells. Like, how are you paying for it? Blah blah blah. They don't believe my story. Get taken into a side room, basically get interrogated like I'm some sort of mad criminal. In that period of time, I have like an attack while I'm in the room.
Oh shit, that's so wild.
Honestly, you literally couldn't. If I was to write a book, it would be like, what, like, how can one person, not how, I don't like believe in the whole thing of bad luck, but how can one person have like so many obstacles?
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, are you meant to be alive? And I've questioned that myself.
Right.
Like, but yeah, so I got interrogated in there, and I went and had the treatment, and it was the weirdest treatment ever. Like, did loads of tests, and then they put this thing, introduced me, and I remember the guy said to me, within about 5 to 10 minutes, it's going to feel like I've got a bucket of red ants and I've just thrown them in your groinal area. And I'm like, what? Like, what that? Okay, cool. Honestly,
What was you doing?
It was the width. So I had like a drip thing in both my arm, both my hands. So this intravenous thing going into my body. Bearing in mind, well, you got to put into mind the context of this. When I've woken up and I've told my friends about it, and they've raised the money for me, and I've woken up in hospital with, well, I've tried taking it basically OD'd.
Yeah.
And I was umming and ahhing about going to America. Like, my mum was like, it's pros and cons, but it got to a stage where her and my dad was like, you're just going to need to go and do it now, because it was like, things like, if you go to America, you haven't got medical insurance. You can't get, the treatment isn't available in the UK. It's banned. You go to America, something happens, you've got no insurance. Something happens, that's a whole nother set of money. Like, we don't, like, yeah, my friends have done a GoFundMe, but that's to like help me across the whole way.
Yeah.
But that always went out the window. It got to a point where I was like, it is what it is. If I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna be here. If I'm not, I'm not. I need to do this. So I've gone. And anyway, the red ants thing, it was like the weirdest feeling. And then they kept me there, monitored me for like a couple of days. And I remember my attacks just almost, my body felt different, like weird. And my attacks kind of like subsided to a certain degree. Like this was the February. I remember because when I went, it was on my birthday, February the 11th, 2017. And it was like, whoa. Like, it was like I was on like a constant, not a high, but just like my body just felt completely different. Like it didn't feel like I was in my own body. And my attacks kind of like subsided again, like down to like more manageable. So bearing in mind that this time before I had it, I was having like 6 to 7 attacks. Then it's gone down to like having 1, but it wasn't nowhere near the intensity of what they were. So I was like, I'll take this all day long. If I could be like this for the rest of my life, I'm cool. Like, so this is February. I'm due to get married in the April. In that time, I've like, obviously I'm not working and stuff. My whole aim is right now that you're semi-normal or able to do certain things, you need to try and get some of this weight off because I'm still super heavy.
Right.
So I bought a cross trainer for the house. I bought a pull-up bar, a set of like those dumbbells, not the ones where they're like magnetic and you turn
the adjustable
them.
ones,
The adjustable ones. Those. I had resistance bands and stuff, and I was just like focusing on
Just getting after it
every day, like just trying to lose the weight, controlling what I'm eating. I got back down to a reasonable weight. Well, obviously not in the best shape that I was, but like enough for me to feel semi-comfortable. And we got married April, and then on our honeymoon, my attacks just started to come back. Oh, well, like worse, and I was like, okay, well, it was good while it lasted, sort of thing. But then I knew that I was waiting to have this implant put in my head,
Right.
but I didn't know when that was going to be. So it was like, you're just going to have to try to get through it. So in this time, I'm doing like fitness stuff, like a PT qualification as and when I can do it and that kind of stuff, just to keep my mind kind of focused and active. And then it's got to fast forward.
Did you get the implant?
Yes, I'm fast forwarding to that time now. So I ended up getting the implant done again. It was 2018. And it was, I was in hospital in my birthday, King's College, and even thinking about it now, like it's nuts. I didn't understand the extent. Like I knew, like they had explained to me what the implant does and like what the procedure is and how like intricate it is, but I didn't like. It's almost gone over my head.
Sure.
To the point where I'm actually there now. They're doing all the prep stuff, and I'm going into the anaesthetic. And even my missus didn't really take it on board. She was just at work, working in London, because we've lived in North B, but she was working in London that week. She's like, okay, well, I'll see you like in a few hours, sort of thing. Thinking that it's like they're just going to cut your toenails or something. But it was actually like an implant that they're putting into your head.
Into your brain?
Well, it's on the it's like underneath it's behind. So they went in through my mouth, up the back of my gum, it's behind my eye.
Wow, okay.
So like underneath here. So the dynamic of the operation is the implant is in your head and you have a remote control. It's probably the size of like an iPhone, and you hold it. It has to be set to certain frequencies. So you hold it and it activates the implant in your head and sends like a loop all the nerves that are activated to try to kind of like retrain the nerves, right, and engage the nerves which are underactive. And then I had that done, and for a little while, you have to stimulate like 5 to 6 times a day. So it's like each time you're holding it for like 5 minutes at a time, stimulate. A few hours, same thing. So you get your body like adapts to it. But the device had to be programmed like every 6 to 8 weeks. So I've used it, and each time they would change the frequency. So got to a point of maybe like 2 to 3 months in, and I was like, do you know what? I'm actually starting to notice a difference with this certain frequency. I'm starting to notice a difference. My attacks were starting to like be more manageable, more under control. My oxygen that I would have at home was more useful. So if I could feel an attack, I would sit on my oxygen. I had a demand valve, which is like where like the deep divers, where you suck, take deep breaths, breathe, hold it, and then let it out sort of thing. And I got into a rhythm of like, and I was seeing like a breathing coach and that kind of thing, just to get all these different elements. Because now I'm doing a lot of reading, so I'm understanding my body more, things that you can do to try to help alleviate your pain or make it slightly easier on yourself. And then got to a point where I was like, this device is the best thing. Like, this is like life changing. I know there's going to be another curveball. So the company that did it, they were hoping to get NHS funding.
Right.
And because of my level of how I have my attacks, long story short, I feel like they felt like it's not going to be...
They're not going to get as big a win.
Yeah, not going to get as big a win for the outlay of what it is.
Yeah.
So
okay.
they're better off just pushing people down like the pharmaceutical route.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, okay, so what does that mean? It's like, well, company, unless the company looks like they might be going under, so the technology is going to be non-existent until we find someone to buy the like the pain or whatever it is.
Yeah, the tech, yeah.
Fast forward, that never happened. So now I'm stuck with a thing in my head with a device which hadn't been programmed.
Shit, yeah.
And it was like gone from having what I would class as the golden ticket, the thing that's helped me the most other than the mushrooms, but with this device I could actually function. I could do normal things. I could go out like scare free, because I knew if I had an attack and I was out, I could go in the toilet, use my device, and it would help like.
Okay.
And then as long as I concentrated on my breathing, it was like it would come, but not in like a strenuous form as like the video that you've seen.
Right.
Yeah, and then it was like it got taken away from me because I couldn't get the device updated, and then I've still got the device at home, can't use it. The thing's still in my head, can't use it. So I was like almost back to square one. Period of time, I don't even know what the timeline would be. Maybe I probably had that for about 10, 11 months, and then it obviously was ineffective in terms of like, because the frequency that it was on was no good for my body now, and I'm back to square one. I'm like, right, so what do I do now?
So how are the attacks now?
Right now, well, the last month has been pretty tough.
Oh yeah.
But I know that one of the things that affects me is like, which is why I moved to Dubai, was the heat helps me massively. So I always noticed if we went away or did something and I was in like a state of where I was getting good vitamin D, my attacks would gradually over the period of time get like less intense and less frequent. So then in COVID, we kind of put that to the test. It was like, because at this time I was in a really, really bad space because I haven't got my device. I can't, like, I've gone from feeling like I'm getting back on track. I haven't got my device. I've got no coping mechanisms. I've not been taking any drugs. Then I've gone back to my consultant and they're trying to give me like these injections. I've had nerve blockers in my eyebrow, into certain nerves. I've had them in the back of my head. I've had drugs like topiramate, which is like highly toxic at crazy levels, which then it comes with like its own problems where you're like having heart issues and kidney issues and gallstones and all these different, like, so many problems. And I was like back to having like 5, 6 a day. Where do I go from there, sort of thing? And then it got to a stage where I was just like, I've had enough of this. I took a load of tablets, tried to kill myself.
Right.
And then bearing in mind in this time, I've now got a daughter, right? So she's actually 5 now, but in this time I've got a newly born daughter. And I think why I found it so hard to deal with was because when I've been used to having my attacks, it's just been me, my missus, or me, my missus and my mum, or a family member around. Now I've got a daughter. Obviously my family member can't be around all the time. It's gone from me having someone with me when I'm having my attacks to like get ice packs to cool my body down, or soak a towel and put it on you, or open the back door, and I got like a patio where I would like lie in like a paddling pool with ice cold water and leave it outside just to keep my body cool, not too deep, but just to regulate my body temperature. My missus is with my little one upstairs, and because like look after her, I'm screaming my head off, banging my head against the wall, like just in crazy pain, to the point where I was making myself go doolally. So I remember taking a load of tablets tried to like end it, and then remember waking up thinking, can't even kill yourself. I was so depressed. I was in a point where you can't even do that. And I just broke down to the point where I was like, what do I do? Then I was just like, you know what? You need to do something about this. You need to take control and control the elements that you can in every element of your life. And I feel like a lot of people probably see me and think that things are easy, man. It's really not. Like, since I moved here, it's been a million times better than I could ever imagine. I'm almost living to the point where I feel like I'm living how I've always craved to live. Pain-free, happy, and just trying to like enjoy each day. And I know that a lot of people probably got a perception of me because I am quite confident now, in the sense of because of just of how I understand my body and the body, and things that have helped me have almost gone against everything that the industry has told me to do. So now I'm at the point where, so for example, when I moved here and I said about the sun helping me, when we came in COVID, we came for 2 months. Initially it was for a month, and it got to a point where I was like, whoa, this is making a massive difference. Like, I'm not going back. But then you're not working, so the money's running out. So then I ended up being here for like 2 months, and then I remember going back, and it's like I've been hit by a bus. Like rebound attacks, attack after attack after attack after attack after attack. And I'm just like, what? Like, at that stage I was like, we're moving. As soon as this whole thing dies down, we're gone. Because before COVID we were moving, but my missus got offered a job. She accepted it because she works in like fashion. But then COVID happened, right? Everyone went into lockdown, so the job kind of got taken away subsequently. Then I was like, once this all settles down, we're selling the house and we're moving. I can't do this anymore. It's either we move or I won't be here. Like I know that I'll find a way to end it. I can't live like this anymore. Every single thing where I've managed to help myself or control what I can control has been for the better. Even down to things like, I said I touched on it earlier, I've had like kidney problems and gallbladder problems. Part of me, like now I'm plant-based, right? I don't eat meat, I don't eat dairy. I used to be the biggest meat eater, dairy eater, like most males really, probably, like thinking that that's all you know, right? You know that you need to have protein, you need to have this, you need to have that, cow's milk, dairy, whatever. But I still had a balanced diet, but like it was very meat and dairy dominant. So this kidney and gall problems, I remember having like relative pain. I was like, something's not right. I'm keeled over, bent over in pain. And I've gone to the doctors and they're like, okay, well, you've got like a certain amount of kidney stones, you've got gallstones. We're going to recommend that you can either go on this medication to see what happens, see if it like helps break it down, or you take your gallbladder out and then go on medication. And I was like, bearing in this at this time, I've had so many different operations, like brain surgery, implants, snapped my patella tendon, snapped my ACL, broken my ankle, had my appendix taken out, like broken my wrist. Like, I've had so many operations to the point where I'm like, I'm not having any more operations. Sure, so one of my friends who played football, professional football, he's been like plant-based. He's very like spiritual, into this kind of like looking after the body and the mind. And I speak to him a lot. Like, it's funny because I used to think he was kind of crazy. I'd be like, some of this stuff you're talking about is crazy, man. Like, because I'm in the more mood of being on this side of the fence. No, meat, dairy, this, that. And I was like, you know what? Some of the things now that we're talking, some of the things that you've been saying in the past actually make sense. I'm going to try it. He said to me, just cut meat and dairy out and see how you go. He said, what have you got to lose? I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So I'm very much of the mind that if I'm going to do something, I stick to it. Yeah. Like, I'm quite strong-willed in that sense. So I literally went home, cleared my fridge, cleared my freezer, all meat, all dairy, went to the supermarket, Aldi at the time, and Tesco, bought like the usual things that he told me to buy. Like, I like cooking, so I've got lentils, chickpeas, all types of beans, loads of veggies and that. He said try and stay away from the processed stuff, meats and stuff. That's not the way forward. Fast forward 6 months, problems nearly gone from going to the doctors. 9 months, gone back, had ultrasound, kidneys fine, gallbladder's fine. What? And one of the key things with that was water, like tap water. He was like, don't drink tap water in any circumstance. And I was like, well, he explained it to me, and he showed me some videos of stuff that he's got. He had like a water filtration system where you put boiled water into it, like almost like a distiller thing, and it takes all the minerals out, and it just leaves you with pure water, but then all the minerals are gone. So you have to buy the trace minerals, drop them back in. He said, buy one of these, only drink that water, only cook with that water. So that was in the process. So the water and the food. 9 months later, my problem was gone. Went to the doctor, had my ultrasound. They're not there. I was like, all I've done is change my diet, and changed, like, everything else has stayed the same.
That's awesome. But I tell you what, I hate to interrupt you. I think we'll have to do a part 2 on this.
Yeah.
From where that turnaround is, because I've got
it's a lot.
I've got to bet, man. That it is. It's one of the heaviest stories that I've been caught off guard. Just talking to you way back last week about the boxing. I thought we were just gonna, because I've seen your Instagram. I know that you've got your plant-based angle on things, but there was something about just the way you were training, the way you were putting yourself out there. I was like, Nathan's got a bit about him that I want to catch up on. I want to chat with him. I thought it was some philosophical thing. I thought it was some. I feel like
in that though, a lot of people. I've had it with most people that I meet. Like, we've sat down and spoken. I would say, if you don't know me, 99% of people will feel like I'm arrogant, or I'm just like this guy that is just like thinks he knows everything. It's not the case. Like, you've sat down and spoken to me. I don't know what your opinion of me was before, but you sat down and spoke. I'm just very logical in the sense of the methods that it's taken me to get to where I am has come through my own processes and reading of what a different angle. Like, there's always two sides to do everything, right? Like, it's like, I feel like sometimes people are too rigid in their way of thinking. They don't want to be open to anything else, because, like, this is the way that you do it, and if it doesn't do it that way, then it can't be done. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you can think like that, but then when you've got a health issue where you're following everything that they're telling you to do, like taking vitamin D supplements and all these different things, and then all of a sudden I'm saying I'm going to go, when I'm in the sun, I bet I'm going to move to the sun. They're telling you it's not going to work. I'm like, well, logically that doesn't make sense. If I'm taking high levels of vitamin D supplements, why would not getting natural vitamin D help? Yeah. And I've done it myself, and it has helped. So, like, I just feel like it's not a case of that. I'm very down to earth, but I'm very much like, I don't preach. It's like, if someone asks me a question, I'll give them the honest answer, or what I think is the honest answer, or what I would do. And I tend not to speak on things that I don't have any sort of experience in. Luckily for me, I've had an experience, medical wise, I've had an experience in a hell of a lot of things. You've experienced something beyond anybody can comprehend. But I mean, like, my opinion of you, I had no opinion of you, except I figured you had there was something about you, there was some motivating factor as to why you're going on long cycles, why you're going on long runs, why you're putting yourself out there, you know, like. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to catch up with you last week. After the summer, people have been away, finally back, got a bit of airtime. Let's catch up and see. And then I was not expecting. Most people don't. No, man. You wouldn't, though. Exactly. Because most people, in any scenario, most people only see what they see, right? They see the front end. No one's ever seen the back end. Exactly. So, like, if you've never seen the back end of something and you're only seeing the front end, unfortunately, we live in a society where people build like this like perception of someone or something, and most of the time the perception is not true, or it's not right. It's like, social media is a big thing for this. Like, there's loads of people on social media. I'm like, you have this big personality on social media, it comes to real life and that personality is not there. Like, so I feel like it's quite like good to have a conversation like this. You're an authentic dude, man. I appreciate you coming in today. We'll definitely do a part 2, because the main thing I wanted to talk to you about when we met last time was your fitness philosophy, your whatever, without knowing the backstory. Yeah. So let's put a pin in this now and come back to some that we'll talk about, and we can refer people back to this if they haven't listened to part 2. Anytime. And we'll chat about your fitness and the long cycles you do, the runs, all that fun stuff. Yeah, cool. Beautiful. Well, thank you for coming in. Yeah. Well, look, I wish you the best for sure now in the next little while. Hopefully the
the stress and the strain eases with whatever way you're able to
Fingers
get
crossed.
more sun. Yeah,
Control what you can control, right?
magic. But I appreciate it. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me.